allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing as the Marion High School Band plays our national anthem.
We would like to begin our ceremony by extending our welcome to those of you in attendance today. Thank you to all of our students, parents, and family members for joining us. We would also like to thank the Marion ISD board members, the staff of Marion ISD in attendance this afternoon, and we would like to welcome our local first responders of the surrounding areas and members of the Marion City Council. We would also like to welcome our guests who are joining us through our live stream on Marion High School's YouTube channel. Before we move further into our program, we would like to express our thanks to the students and faculty who have helped make this program possible. Our students involved in the band, digital media, audio-video courses, and various student organizations assisted with the preparation and production of the ceremony this afternoon. Those involved in floral design and art are responsible for the decorations and displays around the campus. Our culinary arts students have provided a reception for our veteran guests. Our theater students have helped set up our lighting. Our art program has also helped with decorations. And our cheerleaders and dancers have helped welcome our guests to the ceremony today. Thank you to all of our Marion ISD programs who have donated their time and skill to make today special for our guests. We appreciate all you have made that have made this ceremony possible. Thank you very much.
When Veterans Day began, it was originally called Armistice Day. It was designed to honor and celebrate the peace brought by the end of World War I. In the 1950s, it became Veterans Day, a day where we stop to honor those who have served our country. For where would the peace and liberty of our nation be were it not for the men and women who have faithfully served? During World War II, just before the troops marched out on D-Day, President Eisenhower messaged them with these comments: "The eyes of the world are upon you. The hope and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you." G.K. Chesterton wrote, "The true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him." So, to the veterans of the Marion community and our extended community, you are our most honored guests this afternoon. We are grateful for your service to our nation. We welcome you, and we are honored by your presence with us here today. The Marion Middle School Band will now play American Declaration.
From Valley Forge to Vietnam, from Kuwait to Kandahar, from Berlin to Baghdad, these patriots have borne the cost of our nation's war. Like other things of great value, our freedom did not come cheaply. Part of the cost has already been paid by Americans who answered to the call of military duty. Their selfless service has made our nation strong and our world a better place. Freedom is not free. The American Revolution, 4,435 killed in battle, 6,188 wounded. Freedom is not free. The Civil War, 214,938 killed in battle, 285,000 wounded. Freedom is not free. World War I, 953,402 killed in battle, 204,000 wounded. Freedom is not free. World War II, 219,557 killed in battle, 671,846 wounded. Freedom is not free. The Korean War, 33,686 killed in battle, 103,284 wounded. Freedom is not free. The Vietnam War, 47,410 killed in battle, 153,303 wounded. Freedom is not free. The Gulf War, 100 not free. The War on Terror in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, 137 Freedom is not free. We owe our surviving veterans a place of honor. Some need our country's help to readjust, to recover from the mental and physical with the utmost compassion and gratitude. To the rest, let us pay tribute on this day by recognizing their achievements and joining them in
R. Messer Jr. is currently a warfighter integrator, Command Control, Communications and Battle Management Development Program. Prior to his retirement from the U.S. Air Force after 30 distinguished years, Colonel Messer was Commander, Air Force Reserve's Officer Training Corps Detachment 20, University of Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, where he provided formal training and education of over 110 officer candidates and served as a professor of aerospace studies. Previous assignments included tours on the Joint Staff, NATO, and command of the 607th Air Control Squadron. Colonel Messer entered the Air Force in 1991 as an air traffic control specialist and received his commission through the OTS program in 1994. He served in a variety of positions as an air battle manager, including instructor and evaluator, senior director, mission crew commander, and commander. I get to call him cousin. Please join me as we welcome retired Colonel Carlos R. Messer Jr. as our guest speaker.
I know, right? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and Stacy, thank you so much. I get to call her cousin too. Mrs. Johnson's a bit formal for me. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today as we celebrate Veterans Day and recognize those individuals, past and present, who chose the path of self ceremony participants and the entire Marion School District for making this event possible. It's a fantastic event to have every year, and I'm honored to be here. As I mentioned, it is truly an honor for me to be here and be back home. I grew up just a few miles from here. And as a student athlete, both in high school and college, that really led to my career in the United States Air Force. It was also a time that highlighted teamwork over individualism and cooperation. Old enough to carry on the defense of our nation and our way of life. Excuse me. I'm sure that several of you have parents, grandparents, and other family members who have answered the call to serve. For those in the audience who have one of the founding fathers and signatory of the Declaration of Independence said, "Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it." For me to be here today, as an airman, as an American, and as a veteran, I can think of no place that I'd rather be than with each of you, a gathering of America's future leaders in this gymnasium today, surrounded by a community of veterans. That type of upbringing is invaluable, I can tell you from experience. This day gives us all the precious opportunity to reflect on what it means to be a patriot, to reflect on what it means to be a nation tested by war, and to reflect on both the costs and the blessings of liberty. Since George Washington commanded the Continental Army, over 40 million of our fellow Americans have served in the nation's armed forces, and over 1 million have given their lives in its defense. There can be no doubt that America's fighting men and women have given much to ensure that our nation in 2001, and some of us in this room were serving at that particular time as well. When President George Bush addressed the nation, he said, "America was targeted for attack because we are the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining." And those veterans here today have kept that light shining. Today, members of our armed forces are deployed around the world, at sea, in the air, on the land. They protect our national interests to ensure that America's beacon of light continues to shine, even to the furthest and darkest reaches of the globe. Thankfully, our nation has always been blessed to have strong men and women with exceptional courage, people willing and able to stand in the gap and to World War I, Pearl Harbor, World War II, to Korea and Vietnam, to 9/11, to our fights in Afghanistan and Iraq, and the ongoing battle against terrorism worldwide, and every war in between. America's brave sons and daughters have willingly come forward to stand in the gap and engage our enemies, even to the ends of the earth, and we are still at it today. For 247 years, our men and women in this nation have stepped forward and served in our armed forces to defend our freedoms. They have risked their lives for the land, for the people, and for the ideas that we all cherish. Our battles, our victories, and indeed our way of life are owed not to great moments or important dates. They are owed to the actions and sacrifices of individual men and women who are willing to step into the breach. A bystander to history, and forego simply consuming the benefits that America has to offer because of where you happen to be born, to wear instead the cloth of the nation. And those who have worn that cloth understand exactly what I'm talking about. We need those individuals to travel instead along an uncertain road, fraught with peril and purpose, to live instead a life of selfless service, to live a life that matters and preserves our nation. We need our young people to step forward and step into the breach once more. Our veterans truly made the conscious choice to that we have not already put there. Think about that for a minute. The character inside each and every one of our veterans isn't just transferred into the fabric of their being whenever it's needed. It can't be emailed in the hard drives of their spirits and souls and installed whenever you feel like installing it. Character is woven in us over a long process, and it begins at home, continues through boot camp, matures through our interactions and experience in the services and the world that we served in. Growing up, all of us learn lasting influence on me, including my father. But we've learned this from our parents, our grandparents, our teachers, and any those who stay behind carry the concerns, the worries, the burdens, and the fears that their loved ones might not come home. For the military families, this has never been an easy burden. Although she's not here today, I owe my wife a tremendous amount of thanks. Her sacrifice and that of my children enabled me to do something that I loved for over 30 years. And there were certainly times when I questioned her sanity for sticking around that long to do that, but for whatever reason, she stuck around, so it worked out okay for me. So as we thank those who serve today, let us also remember our heroes that are here at home. Our nation's military forces simply could not carry out their duties without the critical support of those families and loved ones every day. To the families holding down the fort even now in this crowd, I salute you today. Thank you so much for your sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're approaching an inflection point in history. We're certainly not approaching the end of history, I don't believe, but freedom and justice are always in the balance. And that scale doesn't tip because we want it to. Our nation continues to draw her strength from those who have served in the past and those who are serving today. And we will continue to draw strength from those who will serve tomorrow. It's an unbroken chain linking Americans generation after generation, keeping the scale tipping the direction that we want to, in the direction of freedom and justice. Our strength as a nation comes from loyal citizens like each of you in the audience today, Americans who are aware of the challenges, aware of the opportunities, and aware of the dangers we face. Those who serve and have served, we're hopeful. We're hopeful today that your generation that's in this crowd and the next generation after that will not only support past and current efforts to defend this nation, but will also willingly accept the challenge to protect it and carry on our way of life. This nation, your nation, is worth defending. But as you heard, freedom is not free. So I'll conclude by saying that today your military still assumes the mantle of liberty. We will pass it down to the next generation. Lessons of previous wars are passed along to you. And trust me when I say that we have been a nation at war most of my career, and the goal is always peace. Don't forget that. We should always strive for peace. And if war is what's necessary, then that's what we will do. As the legacy and lessons of previous wars are passed to you, I ask who among you will also stand the watch to continue the fight against oppression, against injustice, and against those who seek to take our freedom from us. And do not be fooled by what you see and read. There are people out there who want to take our freedom. They want this type of life to go away because they come from places that oppress the very things that we're doing here today in this gymnasium. For those of you here today that are curious about the veterans, I'll leave you with this. Seek out your veterans. Seek out America's defenders, past and present, and talk to them. Wisdom to be had from people who have traveled the world and seen things outside the continental United States. It's a big world out there, folks. And your veterans have seen things and done things that benefit us all. There is wisdom to be had. You simply have to ask. Most veterans I know are more than happy to tell you their story. That is a heartfelt thing. That's a heartfelt thank you. May God bless each and every one of you. For those of you that have soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines, Coast Guardsmen, DOD civilians, reservists, whether you're here serving today or whether you have children abroad, may God bless you. And when you see them, hug them and thank them for answering the nation's call like so many did. So thank you.
Functions. These bands were once an integral element of the battlefield. To increase the morale and courage of the men, bands would march in front of formations as they entered battle. Yet, as the number of musicians dwindled, commanders delegated marching bands to the rear of their formation, behind the combat-ready troops. Today, bands are no longer involved in armed conflict, but continue to inspire troops through song or hymn that represent the individual histories and traditions of America's armed forces. At this time, we will recite a bit of history of the service songs and play each military branch's song. Veterans and active duty soldiers who are attending today's ceremony, please stand when your service song is played. The U.S. Army.
Before the Caisson song was adopted as the official tune of the U.S. Army, it was the proud anthem of the U.S. Field Artillery Corps. During a long march in the Philippines, Lieutenant Edmund L. Snitz Gruber overheard an officer roar, "Come on, keep 'em rolling." Fellow soldiers helped Gruber with the lyrics, and in almost no time, all 6 regiments of the U.S. Field Artillery had adopted the Caisson song as a popular marching tune. During the last days of World War I, senior artillery leaders wanted to make the Caisson song official, and mistaking the piece as composed during the Civil War allowed bandmaster John Philip Sousa to incorporate most of the song into his own composition, the U.S. Field Artillery March. Discovering Gruber actually wrote the melody, and embarrassed but innocent Sousa made certain Gruber received his royalties. H.W. Arberg arranged the U.S. Army song, renaming it "The Army Goes Rolling Along." The U.S. Marine Corps.
An unlikely venue hosted the debut of a tune many now associate with the Marines' hymn. In the city of Paris, France, Jacques Offenbach wrote and conducted opera, and most believe the melody of the Marines' hymn was, in fact, taken from one of Offenbach's operas. His tune was morphed to fit the now famous lines, "From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli." According to tradition, an officer wrote the first verse of the hymn on duty in the Mexican War. Meant to highlight the various campaigns of the Marines, the unknown author edited the words from the Marines' colors and added them to Offenbach's melody. Continuing the custom, every campaign the Marines participate in gives birth to a new unofficial verse. The U.S. Navy.
An attempt to write a catchy tune to rally the Naval Academy's football team, Anchors Away, was born. Lieutenant Charles A. Zimmerman, the U.S. Navy bandmaster, from 1887 to 1916, started the practice of composing a march for each graduating class. However, none of these tunes really caught on. In 1906, Zimmerman was approached by Midshipman Alfred Hart Miles to write a piece of music that would be inspiring, one with a swing to it, so it could be used as a football marching song, one that would live forever. Together, Zimmerman and Hart composed the tune and lyrics that became Anchors Away, dedicated to the class of 1907. The new fight song indeed propelled Navy to win that year over Army. The march was subsequently adopted as the official Navy song and continues to inspire classes of Naval Academy midshipmen. Now the U.S. Air Force.
In 1938, the Army Air Corps decided they needed an official song. Liberty Magazine sponsored a contest whereby 757 scores were submitted. Of those, one written by Robert Crawford was selected by a committee of Air Corps wives and officially introduced at the Cleveland Air Races in 1939. Crawford himself sang it in its first public performance. When the Army Air Corps became a separate branch of the military in 1947, Crawford's March changed names from the Army Air Corps to the U.S. Air Force. Since that time, the first line of "Nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force" became a motto and tradition. The U.S. Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard's motto of Semper Paratus, or always ready, was officially recognized in 1910 and henceforth appeared on the ensign. In 1922, Captain Francis S. Van Boskirk was inspired to write an official U.S. Coast Guard song that would rival Anchors Aweigh or the Caisson song. 5 years later, while stationed in the Aleutian Islands, Boskirk composed the accompanying music on a dilapidated old piano in Unalaska, Alaska. The diverse origins of the shore to Arctic zone are fittingly illustrated in the song's first line, from Aztec shore to Arctic zone, to Europe and Far East. Semper Paratus remains the proud standard song of the United States Coast Guard.
As you entered the room, you may have noticed a special table. It is reserved to honor our missing men. The table is round to show our everlasting concern for our missing men. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering to the call of duty. The single red rose, displayed in a vase, reminds us of the life of the missing, their loved ones, and friends of these Americans who keep the faith awaiting answers. The vase is tied with a red ribbon, a symbol of our continued determination. Land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears endured by those missing.
Guests, please stand and honor our fallen soldiers as taps is being played.
was blind. My heart to fear and grace, my fears relieved.